seconds. It is I, Arth Blood, the girl next door. Hello, my spud guns. It is I, Arth Blood, the girl next door. Your favorite ghoul fiend. And today would be day 4 of my 13 Days of Hallowe'en 2025. And I thought today we could talk about Renfield. There's a glare. Okay. So this is a modern take, I guess you would say. The movie starts off in the 1930s with a montage, what we assume is the 1930s, and I'll get to that later, with a montage of how Renfield meets Dracula and how they end up having to survive. It's a very quick montage, a couple of scenes. Their castle or their home is invaded by some vampire hunters and an exorcist. Renfield, in his attempt to stop them, ends up making matters worse for Dracula. But he does eventually do his job, and then we are in modern day. So I'm guessing that part of the scene is supposed to be modern day, because suddenly we are in modern day, and Dracula is recuperating from what happened, that fight, and he tells Renfield to go and get the nightly feeds, the nightly blood and everything. So here's Renfield feeling very unloved. And as he begins to hunt for the night's food for Dracula, he finds himself in a restaurant. This is all happening in New Orleans. He finds himself in New Orleans in this very, very, very themed restaurant, trying to decide who's going to be tonight's victim when a group of bad guys, they show up, and he helps the police capture them and take them down. Then we see Renfield in a support group, and he's listening to some of the people there, and he decides to follow one of them. A girl is talking about her abusive boyfriend, so he decides to follow the abusive boyfriend and take him out. He somehow then gets mixed up with a group of drug dealers and the cops. Next thing you know, he's unintentionally drawn the drug dealers who are connected to the mob to where Dracula's hiding. And Dracula decides to use this to his advantage in more ways than one. He feeds on some of them, and some of them he turns, and some of them he doesn't. But he has them take him back to their boss, the mob boss in town. And he makes a deal with the mob boss. So while that's happening, Renfield is trying to break away from Dracula in general. He wants to be his own person, which he hasn't been in like 100 years. So he gets an apartment, he sneaks out, he gets an apartment without Dracula knowing, so he thinks, and he's reading all these self-help books and everything, and he decorates his apartment in these very light, happy, joyful, very colors, and very, very much in a novelty sort of way. He thinks he's made it, and then one night Dracula shows up on his doorstep, and there's this really great scene in this part where Renfield is like, how did he get here? And he looks down on the ground and he realizes he put out a welcome mat, which means Dracula can walk on in without having to be invited, because technically he was invited by the welcome mat. So there's these cute little things going on, and then Renfield has to end up working with a couple of cops, one in particular who he kind of starts having a bit of a romantic relationship with. It's left up to your imagination whether they actually become a couple or not. Everything accumulates at the mob boss house, and there's this big fight between Renfield and one of the top mob guys. It's the son of the mob boss. Then there's the big fight with Dracula. Only after Dracula has taken his revenge on Renfield for leaving him and going to the support group and just feasting on everyone there. I won't give you the end because I know that there has been talk that there could possibly be a sequel, and it is set up for a sequel. So I love this movie. Okay. I am a huge, can't see here. I am a huge Renfield fan. So for anyone who's never read the original novel and only seen the movies, Renfield actually doesn't have that big of a role in the novel itself, but ever since the 1931 version, Renfield has played a bigger character. He's in the movies, and for a good portion of what he is in the book, he is supposed to be mad. He's supposed to have gone insane from having his experience with Dracula. In this movie, he's anything but. He is totally sane. He's depressed, but he's not insane. And that's a big distinction. Now, I know this movie gets talked about a lot for the fact that the main theme is abusive relationships, whether they be personal or business, and Renfield kind of working his way to get out of what seems like the most impossible situation of a bad relationship. And you can look at this, the way it's presented is a work relationship, but you can also look at it as a romantic relationship, because there are tinges in there of that maybe possibly they had a romantic relationship. If so, that's off screen and out of the script, but it's kind of hinted at here and there. The movie starts, like I said, with a montage of some black and white scenes, and those scenes come right out of the original 1931 Dracula. They've just superimposed both actors, both Nicholas Hoult and Nicolas Cage, over Dracula and Renfield, previously played by Bela Lugosi and Dwight Frye. Dwight, yes. Dwight, not Dwayne. Dwight, yes. So you have, instead of them recreating the scenes, they just pulled the footage and put the two lead characters in their place, and it works. It's because it's done in black and white. It is seamless, absolutely seamless. There is a cute little nod to Fright Night, as the actor from Fright Night who plays Charlie Brewster, the main character, he's got a tiny cameo in this, if you want to call it a cameo. He's kind of a quick and you'll miss it. He plays the exorcist at the beginning of the movie. He plays the priest that's with the vampire hunters. So that's a nice little nod. The female cop, played by, I'm going to get this name wrong, Aquafina. Her character is also a nod to one of the minor character, or not really a minor character. It's a major character in the novel, but a minor character in most of the movies, of Quincy P. Morris. So they give her the last name of Quincy. The ending, okay, I said I wasn't gonna spoil the ending, but it's been a couple of years. Most people who are going to see this have probably seen it, but the ending does kind of hint at the idea that Renfield might go hunting other creatures, other monsters, which is why I say it really sets itself up for a sequel. And I know that according to the box office numbers and stuff, this didn't do as well box office wise, but it has become a bit of a cult in the last couple of years, cult classic. If you want to call a 2-year movie a cult classic, but it has started to get that. So I'm still hoping there's going to be a sequel. I'm just saying. I would love to see a sequel. And Renfield, you're left wondering, does he now, or is he now, I should say, is he now the new Dracula? Because there is a scene where he defeats Dracula momentarily, because Dracula can never totally be defeated. And he kind of takes Dracula's blood a little more than normal, and he's got the ability to bring back some of his friends. And when I say friends, I mean the people in the support group who Dracula had feasted on. So there's like this whole new coven or nest or whatever, this whole new group of vampires that come from Renfield. And this is the first time, too, that any movie that I'm aware of, there might be some out there that I've never heard of or never seen, but that I'm personally aware of, that has asked the question, if Renfield keeps sipping off of Dracula's blood every so often, is he even human anymore? Because up till this movie, most of the time, the character of Renfield is just a human. He's just a familiar. He's just technically a pet. Whereas in this case, Renfield is almost his equal. Not quite, but almost his equal. So you have to appreciate the fact that they went there, that they said, okay, he's not technically human anymore, but he's not really a vampire. What is he? He's something in between. And you gotta love that. So, there is this one scene, and I love it. It's at Renfield's apartment, and our cop friend there, she just learned what's going on, and she wakes up on the Renfield sofa, and he offers her a plate of snickerdoodles and some tea, and she's like, I don't want your murder cookies, because she's just learned that, oh my god, he is, technically speaking, a serial killer. How do I handle this? And there's all these gray areas, because you've got what Dracula sets out as the villain at the beginning of the movie, but at the same time, you've got the mob boss drug lord who is a bigger villain than Dracula. And then you have to ask yourself, well, where does Renfield fit in? He's not innocent by any means. He's been doing this for a century or more. How does he fit into, how does he fit into innocent, not innocent, guilty, not guilty? And this is a big underlining segment of the movie, of Renfield's character arc, of his story growth. Is he a bad guy because he's done these horrible things, or not because he is technically a victim of Dracula's manipulation, even though he sort of does it willingly, but he sort of doesn't. It's a very, very gray area, and I think that's what makes this story so compelling. There's no clear bad guy, there's no clear good guy. Everyone is kind of in this, I keep using the word gray area, in this gray moral dilemma. Is your conscience screaming loud enough, or should you ignore it? The gore is there, but the gore is also very comical. It's very over the top, something you would expect from, like, The Way Dusk Till Dawn goes over the top with its gore. But the gore is there, even though this is technically like a horror comedy. And it's very dramatic at moments, because you've got the main story following Renfield through all this, but then there is a lighter story that honestly I think they could have done without, of the female cop and her relationship with her sister, and they're dealing with they are dealing with the death of their father, and how they are both being held up to a different standard because he was a cop and everything. So the story is that subplot is, like I said, I think they could have done without that. It almost weighs it down, but it brings in this very, very dramatic grounding, maybe, is what you could consider it. Where everything else is over the top, it's about the only thing that's really in reality. So, that might be it. I think if you haven't seen this, you should give it a chance. Give it a chance. I think for a Dracula take, it was very original, extremely original, and I really appreciate that. I really do think that it could carry a sequel. Oh, and there's a scene, for anyone who's followed Nicolas Cage's career and you know about the movie Vampire's Kiss from like 1988, 1989. I always get the year mixed up on that. Vampire's Kiss. In Vampire's Kiss, there's a scene where Nicolas Cage is having a temper tantrum, and he's saying the alphabet. But earlier in that film, there's a scene where he's belittling his secretary. In Renfield, in the scene where Dracula shows up at Renfield's apartment, he does the exact same thing with the exact same mannerisms and the exact same vocal range. He has the same type of tantrum, and he belittles him in the exact same way. And it's just this cute little nod, this little throwback to Vampire's Kiss that I don't even know if Nicolas Cage did it on purpose, but it comes through loud and clear. Okay, I'm going to leave that there, and I will see you tomorrow with another video, because until the end of Halloween, I'm doing one video a day. So I'll see you then. Until next time, creeping screams!